Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second/final part of Metal Slug X. If you thought that the sequel was going to be a substantially longer game, ha 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 ha.
Well,
You're right.
like I said, arcade cabinets. These were not meant to be long home console releases. These were meant to be games that ate your quarters but could be reasonably beaten in a single sitting.
Yeah, once you're good enough.
Once you're good at them.
Yeah.
Has there ever been? I mean, that said, is there any arcade game you guys could think of that actually was kind of lengthy given its genre?
Define,
Like, because most arcade games I know, you play with an adequate amount of skill. It takes you at least 40 to 50 minutes.
yeah, like over an hour and a half is much for an arcade. Like, I know there are games, newer games in an arcade style that tend to be longer. Like, for example, Castle Crashers is styled very much like an old school beat 'em up, but that game's like 4 hours long. If you're quick, actually, it can be much longer. I have not played that game in a long time. I love Castle Crashers. Why we haven't done that yet on this channel is beyond me. Anyway, back on point. Yeah, was the X-Men game on in arcades particularly long, or the
No,
Simpsons?
you can
Not
beat
really.
that in like
Not
half
e-
an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, not any longer than Turtles in Time or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, beat 'em ups tended to have a certain prescribed stage length that was just ideal, and if they had more replay value to them, it was usually in the form of alternate pathways and stuff.
Yeah.
That was a fairly common thing in beat 'em ups. I think maybe Golden Axe was the first series to do it, and then other games like the Dungeons and Dragons beat 'em ups did it too.
The Dungeons and Dragons game, I played the Wii U port of that, and that was relatively lengthy for the kind of game that it was. Like, that was longer than some of the other ones.
Relatively lengthy, but more because it gives you more incentive to slow down. There's like side paths you can explore and all of that. But
You have to spend all the time rolling for initiative.
So, okay, does my horse have its own initiative, and can I actually...
The Dungeons and Dragons beat 'em ups are freaking amazing, though. I love them.
Okay, so actually, I was playing some tabletop stuff, and when I was at PAX East, because they had pickup things. And for some reason, in this specific room, and only, the laser gets bigger, and I don't know why. But anyway, a guy had a horse, and he was like, I want my horse to roll his own initiative, and the DM was like, we need you guys out in an hour. No, he goes on your turn.
Why would the horse roll?
Because it's its own
And it-
character. Basically,
It's
some people are very picky about that because it has its own stats, and so it has its own initiative stat, basically.
well, yeah, but aren't you on the horse controlling it?
Sometimes it depends. Like, some people, when their mounts have their own like free will or whatever, they're very picky about. I want my hawk familiar to have its own turn, even if all it's going to be doing is standing up in the rafters and watching crap. You know, people are picky about that sort of thing in tabletop games.
Okay.
Because God forbid you actually try to get to the combat, you know, because it's been 3 hours and you've been trying to roleplay buying a new shield for like 15 minutes and nobody cares.
I hear tell that was a major problem with 4th edition because the rules were just so involved for combat.
I never played 4th, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. I actually have not played 5th either, even though I hear that's good, I think.
It's got a lot of what 4th was trying to do, but it's not as much drag factor, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
More emphasis on the role play too. 4th edition was a very combat system heavy version of D&D.
Okay, so this is like the one part of the game I really don't like, and it's those stupid trains. Because once you run out of grenades and ammo, all you have to do, the only way you can beat it is by using your pistol, which you have to mash, and you will actually like hurt your fingers trying to get that thing to not crush you at the edge of the screen. Like, it is almost impossible to beat
So
it.
you gotta like pump it full of lead the moment it appears on the screen to even stand a chance.
Yeah, I should mention that this port on Switch does allow for rapid fire.
Turbo
but that's
controller.
yeah, but that's cheating. So no.
Well, you know,
Well, I mean, if you got an option, though.
Yeah, but
you know, I'm not I'm used to mashing a button to fire pistols as fast as I can because I'm a Devil May Cry kid. But you know, it's I'm not gonna say it's good design.
well, it's fine normally. Like when you're in a standard firefight, I don't mind. It's just that when you're trying to kill these, I think a train's about to come up like any second now. When you're about to kill those trains, they take actual hundreds of bullets. So you're just, and usually there's no other enemies nearby. So you're just mashing really, really hard, and you hurt your thumb.
It's just you know, in Devil May Cry, you're not usually required to fire your pistol for an hour on end. Only in Devil May Cry 2.
When are we gonna do that game already? Jeez.
Well, as soon as I sort out my recording device issues, I was planning on recording it, but. Ugh.
Notice he always has recording
And you know,
device
I know
issues
someone
the
out
instant
there
it's
is
brought up.
probably halfway through typing a comment. No, you don't need to fire your gun all the time. Well, yeah, that's true for most of the game, but what about the helicopter boss? Jesus Christ, that was terrible. Oh, and I think like the first half of the skyscraper monster boss too. I like how you can push the train back with your machine gun.
Come on, die. Nope. Usually you should just get used to that happening.
Why don't you just step to the side?
Cause three-dimensional space doesn't exist when you're made of pixels, John. Alright, gosh.
Not true.
Well, I mean, if you're made of a two-dimensional object, you're probably not going to... Yeah.
Yeah, see,
Do
like, I
that
had no
again.
chance there, basically. I think if you run against the train, you might push it back a little bit and have more time, but it's been a while since I played, so I don't really remember. And also, the cast of Resident Evil just steps into this part of the level for some reason. So suddenly the tone just gets really dark. And also, at this point, I'm really dumb and I don't realize that you just have to mash the fire button when you're standing next to those little levers to turn them.
Frickin' liquors, man.
Yeah, no. They're not even liquors, they're crimson heads, too.
Crimson liquors. Oh, no.
Yeah, crimson liquors.
Do those even exist in Resident Evil?
No, but...
Not yet.
Now you just gave him an idea.
Yeah, not yet.
I mean, they're remaking Resident Evil 2, so we might see something along those lines.
Someday.
Yeah, it'll come out the same day as the Final Fantasy VII redo.
Then again, maybe that's what the Resident Evil 5 versions of the liquors are. For some reason, they're, like, extremely badass. Like, they take forever to kill and they do tons of damage in that game. Whereas in Resident Evil 2, they're just kind of, like, really annoying normal enemies that are blind.
Nuisance.
When did they announce the Resident Evil 2 remake, anyway? It was...
It's like, I think it was like 2-3 years ago.
I seem to
Yeah.
remember it being suspiciously close to the Final Fantasy VII Remake's announcement. Like, oh, they're remaking their PS1 classic? Well, we can cash in on that too.
And we'll release it at the same time, as in about 8 years from now.
Oh, you funny man. You think the Final Fantasy remake's actually gonna come out.
Not
Didn't they
for a
already, like,
long
scrap
time.
one version of it?
Yes.
They
did.
Everything that we've seen so far has been scrapped.
Yes, because
Ugh.
Square
Because
Enix
now,
sucks.
now they're working at it from in-house.
Yeah. So
Well, they probably
So,
should
wait.
have been doing that in the first place, considering how
Way to go,
important-
guys! Way to go!
How important that game is to their legacy.
and that's why Kingdom Hearts 3 has been in development for like 6 years.
6.
Well, no, Kingdom Hearts 3 has been in development for like 6 years by one team. the reason that's been in development for forever is because I think they tend to assign those people to other projects.
I still do like the fun fact that Kingdom Hearts 3 has never been delayed, though. You can't
'cause they've-
delay your
they've never
game if you
bothered-
don't
they've
give it a
never-
release date.
Exactly. Well, no, it can be delayed now because they have said 2018. If it
I
comes
still
out next
think
year,
it.
they've delayed it.
You see, here's my probably wrong E3 prediction is that Kingdom Hearts 3 gets delayed to like early 2019, and then
You know what's great though? I think like half the reason Final Fantasy Versus 13 didn't happen was because the Kingdom Hearts team, which was the team that was doing it, actually got reassigned to focus on Kingdom Hearts. Oh man. Square Enix management was horrible around that time, and you can argue with me about how horrible it is now, but we're talking about the way the management was when Final Fantasy XIV was first released.
Yeah, a lot of people died.
I think the CEO apologized and resigned, or something like that.
I don't think he apologized. I think he apologized, and I think he was fired. I don't think he resigned.
Well,
yeah, on the bright side, they have Yuji Naka now.
Yuji
So,
Naka works
what
at Square
is-
Enix.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's something
Wait, what?
you see, a developer known for making one of the fastest-paced characters in all of video games goes to the company that exclusively makes RPGs. All right.
So, hey, at the very least, next Final Fantasy will have realistic rolling physics. That's all I can ask for.
hey, don't tempt fate, okay? Because after Final Fantasy 15, anything could happen. Well, what was with the submarine that looked like a melted lump of metal?
Well, it only looked melted after we fired, I don't know, too many bullets into it. I don't.
That's not the effect bullets have on metal.
In this universe, it is. Okay, so I don't think, in terms of the bosses, I don't think that they get too bullet spongy in Metal Slug X. That's more of a Metal Slug 3 thing, but that one always feels like it takes an hour, particularly.
This area can kiss my ass.
So the firecrackers are always like my least favorite enemy shots to deal with, because whenever you shoot them, they go up, which is usually normally where you are. So it's not even that you can really shoot them to get them out of your way. It's usually if you shoot them, they're probably going to hit you, and you're a little bit boned.
Well, just a little bit. You're only ever a little bit boned in this game because you have infinite credits.
Well, I have infinite credits.
If you were playing this in an arcade cabinet, though, I think this is the level where I would have given up.
Probably.
You've already spent like $20.
No, I did. I
Well,
put in
you know-
$5 total at the start of the game. That's what I like to do, is see how far I can get on $5.
I was about to say that I'm not dedicated enough to waste that much money in an arcade cabinet, but I'm so weak-willed. I actually sunk $30 into frickin' Hogwarts Mystery last week, so I don't know, maybe.
At least it wasn't a gotcha game, Lewis. All right.
It was
It still will tell you when you can play games, which still is just as bad.
it's one of those mobile Facebook timer games, and that
Which
pisses
means it's
me off.
which means it's completely worthless.
Yeah, but at least you're paying to play the game as opposed to paying for a picture of your waifu. A randomized picture of your waifu, more accurate.
Well, no,
There's an episode of the Kirby anime where everybody gets addicted to gachas, and it's just so appropriate for the year 2018 because there's an because they're like they're like
I think we've been over this.
we might have, but it's just there's a scene where King DDD is buying all of these chocolate toys because he wants the specific Meta Knight one, and then he's just whining on his bed going, "I want a Meta Knight!" And it's
Also, I love how you're making this a Leon versus Krauser fight.
That. Oh God, killer whale!
What the hell?
don't worry, he's fine.
That guy has a lot of shin bones.
He comes back. Don't worry.
That guy's sprite animation was amazing. He was holding on to this massive chain gun with one hand, and whenever he got close, he'd let go of the ammo chain and swing his knife at you, and then catch the ammo chain so he could fire again.
Yeah, the animation obviously is really, really smooth. A lot of stuff is pulled straight from Metal Slug 1, but all the backgrounds are like the enemies and stuff, but all the backgrounds are brand new. And I do think I've looked at some graphical differences between X and 2, and I do think that overall the environments are better looking in X than they are in 2. But I mean, it's more the fact that the game runs at more than 3 frames per second that makes it the better experience for me visually. Because it really does feel like playing a PowerPoint game sometimes when you're playing.
Metal Slug 2 was probably made on inferior arcade hardware.
It's still impressive that they were able to make games on the Neo Geo hardware by the year like 2000, because that was when Metal Slug 3 came out, was like 2000 or 2001. And the Neo Geo at that point came out in like, what, 92, 93? So they were pushing out games for it pretty late, all things considered.
The Neo Geo, was that like a dedicated console, or was it just sort of an arcade emulator for your home television?
I know that it was. I knew that it was a console. I don't know like what kind of media it used. If it used carts or discs. I do know that it was like $600 though. If you wanted to buy one.
All I know about the Neo Geo systems is that, like, frickin' everyone I know who's from Britain loves the shit out of them, but I've never seen any of them in America.
Yeah, because they were $600.
Neo Geo arcade machines are the most I've ever seen console-wise.
It's like most of the Neo Geo hype that I hear comes from people like Ashens or Guru Larry. Like, I never hear anything about them from American gamers on YouTube.
I had a Neo Geo Pocket Color.
The Neo Geo Pocket Color is the exception, but that's only because it had a frickin' Sonic game on it. But I never like the only Neo Geo talk that I hear from people who aren't from Britain is people who played it on emulators, you know? So.
And they probably heard about the emulators from somebody in the UK, so you know.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird gaming stuff from Britain that I hear about on YouTube a lot that I never ever heard about back in the day, like old gaming magazines and stuff.
Well, they had to get by with weird stuff because a lot of stuff just straight up did not. Like a lot of RPGs just straight up did not get to
Their first Final Fantasy was Mystic Quest.
And then I think the only one that they got the next one they got after was like 7.
The first real one they got was 7.
They didn't get a Dragon Quest until 8 on PS2. I think they didn't get Chrono Trigger either, if I remember correctly, or like Secret of Mana or any of those kinds of games. You know, so and also you had to play games at 50 hertz. So you know, rip Europe. You're stuck
Rip
with
Sonic 1.
No, rip any game playing at 60 hertz. Have you seen...
Particularly Sonic 1 and Ocarina of Time.
Well, Ocarina of Time runs at 3 frames per second in the US anyway. So.
I think the...
12, it runs at 3 in the UK.
I think the 60 hertz thing came from, like, a certain electricity restriction.
Yeah, post-war stuff.
Yeah, because, like, there was a certain time of day, I think, where like everyone would be frickin' watching TV, and if they didn't limit the power use of the televisions, the grid would go down, or something.
Ooh, Jesus Christ! Europe didn't get Chrono Trigger until the DS release in 2009.
Jesus Christ! They didn't even get the PS1 release. That's sad.
No. Well, the DS1's better, but yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, but the DS1 release was also years later, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time they got it, they probably were like me and didn't get why the game was so special. I think is part of it.
You know, the other thing though is that the PS1 release also is like, for as annoying as the load times are, it's not a bad release of the game.
Did they retranslate it for PS1?
No, still the Ted Woolsey translation. The PS1 releases of the SNES games used the Ted Woolsey translations. The only localization difference was that they uncensored stuff like boobs and pubs. So
they kept the Final Fantasy IV translation from SNES on Super Nintendo.
To an extent.
I forgot about that. The PS1 release of 4 was sort of a special, special case because the US release of 4 was initially so dumbed down to begin with.
All things considered, the PS1 version of Final Fantasy IV is actually really good. You know, if you want the original difficulty of the game without the SNES censorship and all that sort of shit, then I'd still recommend it.
Don't
get 5 on the PS1
as bad.
It only has because it only has one loading time when you load the game up. After that, it's about the same speed as SNES.
So then, why does Chrono Trigger have more load time?
I don't know. I have no idea why Chrono Trigger has load times or 5 and 6 have load times. Don't play 5 on the PS1.
So that's why 4 is the best one.
Well, John, good luck getting a cheap version of 5 Advance.
It's okay, guys. I'm sure that they'll port it to Steam and it'll be the best version.
That pisses me off. Like,
it pisses
seriously.
Uh-oh, guys. The aliens betrayed the bad guys. Oh, no.
Who could have guessed?
Independence Day, motherfucker.
On a much smaller scale.
That was a really weak Independence Day.
Well, he's not dead. Fuck, I thought
He survived that?
Yeah.
Jesus.
People in Metal.
forgot about that.
How many bullets to the face has Aerie taken by this point? Of course she survived that. Okay, so yeah, this is the final boss, phase 1. If you want this fight to go easier and not die as much as I do, aim for the aliens because they can drop power-ups.
Yeah.
Or do as Peppy says in the Katina, I think it's the Katina level in Star Fox, aim for the open spot.
I don't think the open spot does any more damage, but sure.
It looks like it would, though, so aim there.
What you really
looks
want
like it
to
just
do
has
is
one
fly,
gigantic
is
tip
fly
up.
a fighter jet into it.
Or you can just do what I do, is the die until you get heavy machine gun and grenades back strategy.
I'm sorry, I know Independence Day is technically a bad movie, but it's a guilty pleasure for me.
Nah, that movie's fun.
I
That
can
movie's
watch it.
fun. Like, it doesn't need to be a good movie to be fun. It's
Yeah.
worse if it's a bad movie and it's still not fun, you know.
Today we celebrate our Independence Day.
You were never under the rule in the first place.
Yeah, but what about the French people that are fighting with us?
Don't they have their Bastille Day?
Yeah, but that's later. That's later in the month.
I'm trying to look all heroic and stuff, says the president.
Sir, isn't it incredibly strategically not sound to have our commander-in-chief fly into battle? Sir?
Fuck it,
Man.
we're all gonna die anyway.
He's been watching too much Lord of the Rings.
Like, he's watching too much Spaceballs.
Eh.
I mean, to be fair, though, like, if you didn't have Aragorn out on the horse hyping everybody up, that fight would have, I don't know, probably gone the same, I guess. Maybe. Or he could have just hyped everyone else everybody else up and then hide in the back, you know, where he'd be
Well,
safe.
to be a bit fair to Aragorn, he wasn't planning on actually winning that fight. He was kind of just banking on Frodo finishing the job.
Yeah, but how did he know that Frodo would finish the job, though?
I imagine Gandalf told him.
No, let me move. Let me pick up the laser. No, game, stop. Let me pick it up. No!
The serious answer to that is that because of Faramir, they had a general idea of about how far Frodo was in his quest, and were hoping that he was close enough to finish it during the battle. It was probably meant to go on a lot longer than it did, though.
Well, yeah, people always forget battles took days sometimes back then. Well, not back then, quote unquote, but like during those kinds of weaponry days.
Yeah.
Well,
The
even up
dragons
through,
back
like,
then,
World
too.
War One and 2, battles, especially if they were a siege, went on for days or even months.
Ugh,
Yeah.
Don't get me started on the fucking trenches. Ugh.
Now the bad guys are helping us and getting disintegrated. Damn, I only just noticed.
As long as they're taking fire from us.
That's actually one thing that I appreciate, though, is that they actually do take fire. Like, if they get hit by an enemy projectile, they will take the hit and not you. And if they manage to hit an enemy, the enemy will die. Or will take damage at the very least, which is something that doesn't always happen in these sorts of games. Where, like, you know, okay, the other characters are there, the NPCs are there, and they're fighting bullets, but they're firing bullets, but they're just kind of aesthetic. They don't actually do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're glorified background
Yeah.
objects.
Having a
Star
full-fledged-
Fox's wingmen.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
They're more
Having
helpful
a-
than the allies and Dynasty Warriors at the very least. So you know.
Man, it's like the first time that I actually felt like the Allies and Dynasty Warriors were actually worth a damn was the Fire Emblem one. But I like games that do these full-fledged faction battles. It's really satisfying to see it happen, especially when it's a thing that you can directly affect. Like,
I love this prisoner guy shooting Kamehamehas, even though everything's above him.
Hey, he's got like his 12-button fight stick, so he can aim those things better, man. All right.
Now, despite the enemy soldiers assisting you, can you still get hurt by their bullets?
I don't think so. At least not here. I mean, granted, I'm not jumping into them on purpose, but you're definitely not. You definitely don't take touch damage from like the tank or anything anymore. And you would in the main game. I think probably not, because I think I just touched one there and I'm fine. So yeah, you don't have to. You only have to worry about the green bullets and not the red ones anymore. Which is also something that confuses me whenever I'm watching Star Wars, because in the original trilogy, the red bullets are the good ones and the green ones are the bad ones. But I think it's supposed to be opposite, because in the prequels, that's the case.
Hello, boys.
I think that's more because in the prequels it was the
Back.
same people who were. Oh, they actually did it.
The son of a bitch did it.
I forgot that it was a deliberate Independence Day joke.
Was it? I mean, when did this game come out?
Like 1999, I think, yeah.
Oh, okay,
98
yeah,
or
that's an
99,
Independence Day
so
reference.
around that time.
Okay, yeah. Then it is totally an Independence Day reference.
I mean, Independence Day wasn't a fantastic movie, but it was certainly iconic.
But it was a spectacle.
And the toys were amazing.
Yeah. And you know, that part of the movie where the mothership explodes and M. Bison was the source of the power.
Yay, we did it. We saved the world? Question mark.
I like how the enemy leader just gets crushed under the prison thing, and all his soldiers are like, ah!
It's
that
fine.
took me out of it.
He'll be fine, don't worry.
Mission all over.
I only had to pay...
Can you just say mission complete?
I only had to pay $7.50 to get to the end.
Well, that's not too bad, but
These paywalls are ridiculous.
Well, that's assuming one quarter per play.
continue.
Because
Because everything's like $1 now. It's like ugh.
Yeah, like if you go to a Dave & Buster's trying to play like the Luigi's Mansion game, it's like $2.50. It's actually ridiculous.
That's why I stick to Miss Pac-Man.
I miss the days when arcades were popular.
You know, there is a atmosphere to it that I do like. You can kind of get it if you go to like the arcade or a free play room at a convention or something. There's a atmosphere to having a bunch of people just excited to play games together. You know, making friends. You know.
Well, you know, the nowadays, apart from like boardwalks and stuff, the closest thing to an arcade you'll see most of the time in America is just an establishment where someone has set up a bunch of consoles and a bunch of televisions, which basically is a free play room, except it's not free. But there's something different to that because every console is potentially whatever game you want to play on it. Whereas in an arcade, every cabinet is a specific game, so you get people gravitating toward the part of the arcade that they wanna play. And already, that creates a situation where you're getting closer in terms of physical proximity to the people who want to play the same games as you.
Yeah.
Without having to think about it.
Yeah. Not to mention it made the there's an arcade here kind of more interesting because you wonder what games they'll have, whereas a lot of the times like Dave & Buster's and stuff like that will all have the same games. Like they generally...
Yep.
Although...
And they're all crap designed to make you spend your money for like minuscule amounts of tickets.
Dude.
I think like...
Hey, you say that. My buddy Russ just got a PS4.
How many times did he have to go?
He didn't say. So I don't think he's proud of that number.
I think like the only thing that you'll still commonly see as its own individual thing is probably dancing games.
Yeah, well, you say that, but there's 3 Dave & Buster's near where I live, and the 2 that are closest to me don't have a DDR machine, which baffles the hell out of me why you wouldn't have a DDR machine in your arcade. But
come on, it's like, okay, you've got basically 2 core appeals to arcades. You've got people who really want to play their fighting games, and you've got people who want to have dance-offs with each other. Why would you cut yourself off from half of your potential customer base?
Yeah, so if we ever wanted to do DDR specifically, we had to drive like a good hour to go to the Dave & Buster's that has that. So yeah.
Jeez.
The future is nope. The present is now. The future is always out of reach, technically.
What is always
right,
coming
don't
but
you-
never actually arrives.
Don't bother chasing your dreams.
Deep thoughts.
Okay, so I know that arcade games.
Peace forever until the next game.
Now, here's the thing. I hate that arcade games still say "game over" when you finish the game, because yes, I know that the game is technically over when you win, but when you see the words "game over," you think you lose. So
Yeah, it's kind of an archaic thing. The words "game over" used to mean that's it, you're done, your credits won't get you any more game time. It wasn't supposed to mean you failed. It was more supposed to mean you're done. you have to start over now.
Go do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, put your money into the other SNK trademark. The arcade
Yeah,
cabinet.
it's just when games came to home consoles, Game Over came to me and you lost.
Yep.